Larson Show.
Welcome back to the Lars Larson Show. I'm looking forward to talking to my friend Ann Coulter. Not that I don't always look forward to talking to her, because she is a great guest, and she usually says what other people only have on their minds but won't give voice to. But Ann, this latest column that you've done on Jeffrey Epstein, which has just gone up, I know you've been sweating over it, but this so effectively makes the point. Many Americans may not recognize Jeffrey Epstein's name, but he's a major Democrat donor. He also happens to be a convicted pedophile. But the mainstream media has done its best to play the, we're not paying any attention to Jeffrey Epstein for a long, long time. And it even goes beyond the media not paying attention. Even the professional prosecutors didn't want to do that. You want to speak to that?
Yes, it's a stunning case that I've been following from the beginning. It was huge news in Florida. In fact, I'm the one who got Bill O'Reilly to write it up, that prosecutor in Palm Beach who spent 3 years going after Rush Limbaugh for back pain medication. When he gets presented a case to him with mountains and mountains of evidence that this billionaire Democratic donor, Jeffrey Epstein in Palm Beach, was paying girls, well, the medium-aged girls, age 20, 18, they were paid $200 to bring teenage girls to him, and then he was paying the teenage girls $200 to $300 to perform various sex acts on him. The Palm Beach police were alerted to it when the mother of one of the girls contacted them and said, my daughter was taken to the home of this Palm Beach billionaire, Jeffrey Epstein, and he offered to pay her for sex. She's, 14 years old. So quietly, the Palm Beach stage a 1-year investigation. They're going through his garbage. They're interviewing the procurers, the girls themselves, the housemen, who would describe things I probably can't say on
Well, let's put it this way. Sex toys left behind after the underage girls left the home.
Yes. They go through the garbage. They find pictures of explicit pictures, photos of young, very, very young girls. They raid the house, lots of pictures, explicit pictures of the girls. Their class schedules. One of them, they had the high school transcript for one high school girl. So, the case was pretty airtight. They presented to Barry Krischer, this Democrat prosecutor who spent all that time making a name for himself going after Rush Limbaugh, and he punts the case. They've spent a year on this, and he's presented, well, the details don't matter. He just wants to charge Epstein with one count of soliciting prostitution, thereby labeling the poor child victims prostitutes, I might add, and just giving him probation. So the chief of police, Chief Mike Ryder, goes crazy. He writes a letter describing the evidence, denouncing the prosecutor, saying he should pull himself off it. And, it's a state case. It happened in Palm Beach at this beautiful mansion on El Brillo Drive. And he wants to take it to the federal. This is back during the Bush administration. This case has been going on for 13 years, largely because Democrats and this circle of Democrat enablers have been protecting Epstein. So he takes it to the FBI, federal authorities, and the prosecutor down in Miami, federal prosecutor, says, okay, we're going to look at this case and see if we can get something. Now, they're limited in what they can do. It has to be, you've probably heard, at least on Fox News, you heard them talk about the Lolita Express.
Yep.
That was Jeffrey Epstein's private plane.
That was the airplane that Bill Clinton took, 26 flights
26 times.
Yeah.
Yes. That we got from another source. And you will only have ever heard this on Fox News, never with CNN or MSNBC reporting this. But the New York Post was covering it, the British papers were covering it, Fox News, Bill O'Reilly, as I say, obviously the Florida papers, absolutely not a word out of MSNBC or CNN. In fact, much later, the federal prosecutors, they do get not so much, but they get more than the Democratic state prosecutor did. And that, like I say, the feds needed to be in international waters or on a plane or on the island for them to have jurisdiction at all. Still, what they end up getting Epstein to plead guilty to, 2 state felony charges. He has to register as a sex offender. He has to accept in his plea that he'll spend 2 years in prison. The feds don't have, since it's a state charge, they can't control what kind of imprisonment he has. Part of what you've probably heard about the case is, which is completely outrageous, He spent 13 months in the county jail, a private wing, and was allowed to go back to his mansion for 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. Well, okay, but the feds had nothing to do with that. That's up to the Democratic county prison administrators. So all of this was just, in the conservative media all this time. Suddenly I see it being talked about every single night on MSNBC, and maybe not every night, CNN and MSNBC. And they have miraculously turned this into a Trump scandal because the U.S. attorney, who brought a difficult prosecution, but still, he did a lot better than the Democrat prosecutor, but he was not abiding, or at least the claim is, not abiding by the Crime Victims' Rights Act, where the crime victims themselves, the girls, were supposed to be notified. And it was a tougher sentence than the Democrat got, but it wasn't that tough considering that Jeffrey Epstein seems to be at the center of a massive child sex ring, seems to be. That's certainly what the allegations and a lot of the evidence indicates. So now they've created this fantasy. Oh, and Jeffrey Epstein would drop by Mar-a-Lago along with 100,000 other people. There's a quote from Trump about 3 or 4 years before even the Palm Beach police knew what was going on under their noses, with Trump giving one of his typically florid, oh, he's a great guy, everyone says he's terrific, he likes the ladies, a little younger than I like. Yeah, so Vanity Fair was saying the same thing. New York Magazine was saying the same thing. Nobody knew how bad this was. But because Alex Acosta, the federal prosecutor, is now Trump's labor secretary, the media have created this completely insane conspiracy theory where Jeffrey Epstein is now attached at the hip to Donald Trump, which of course he is not at all.
Nor that Trump had any.
Back.
And there's no evidence that Trump took any of the flights, like Bill Clinton took 26 flights. No evidence Trump took any flights or had any of these connections.
No, absolutely not. But this crazy theory is that this was like a 10-year conspiracy for Trump to help out his good pal, that's a joke, not good pal, Jeffrey Epstein, and he'd reward the prosecutor, the much better prosecutor than the Democratic prosecutor, by appointing him cabinet secretary. So the conclusion to my column is I finally know how we can lock her up. We've got to get Trump to appoint Hillary to his cabinet.
Unbelievable. Because... And as you say, this story, up to the point where they found, this way to connect Trump to it, had everything that TV news usually likes in this modern age. It was salacious. It was disgusting. It had political types attached to it, like Clinton, and it had all the elements, but the wrong ones. So the Chicken Noodle News Network ignores it, and then they find, hey, we've got a way to hook this now convicted pedophile to Donald Trump. So in that case, now it's the story of the moment. It's ridiculous.
And meanwhile, Epstein has given well over $100,000 to Democratic candidates, big backer of Israel. He's donated to Schumer, to Hillary, to John Kerry, to Chris Dodd. He flies Bill Clinton on his plane, flies around big Democratic activists, Ron Burkle. I mean, he's surrounded by a nest of Democrat enablers, and that's why the media was silent about it all this time. But now they've figured out by hook or crook some way to connect Jeffrey Epstein to Trump, and suddenly they are hot on the trail of, as Lawrence O'Donnell on MSNBC calls him, child rapist and Donald Trump friend, Jeffrey Epstein.
You got to read this latest column. She is the author most recently of Resistance is Futile. Ann Coulter. Read her column and take a look at this duplicity by the mainstream media and the left-wing media. Glad to be with you on a Wednesday night. We'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to The Lars Larson Show.